Me and my mom are on our way to, well, we're going on a little road trip today, aren't we, Mom?
It's my mom and I.
Daze with Jordan the Lion begins now. Now entering Indiana. Well, we had to make an unplanned stop, and it's not because we found where we were looking for. It's because we found this guy, and I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Now let's keep going. And an unexpected airplane. Well, my friends, we are at stop number 1. You guessed it. Today is James Dean Day. And actually, tomorrow is going to be James Dean Day as well. But we want to start out here in Marion, Indiana, where James Dean was born. Then we're going to move on down to Fairmount, and we're going to see where James basically lived his life until he was 18. Well, here's our first little tidbit to James Dean. A movie actor star right here on the corner of where his birthplace used to be. 1931, Jimmy was born. A legend in his lifetime. A very, very short one. Now what's kind of cool is that they have put a whole little monument to him over here. Now originally there was another plaque that was here, and it was dedicated, oddly enough, by Charlie Sheen. So let's take a look. This whole area that we're now standing on, this used to be where the apartment building was that his family was living in when he was born. It says, American actor James Dean was born on February 8th, 1931 in the Seven Gables apartment house, which stood at this site. He starred in 3 motion pictures, East of Eden, Rebel Without a Cause, and my personal favorite, Giant. And of course we have vlogged his death site crash. In 1955, James Dean died at the age of 24. He was laid to rest at Park Cemetery in Fairmount, 10 miles south of here, which we will eventually get to. Now let's check this out. What a great little monument to him, huh? I've seen other people's videos online. This was not always here, so looks like this monument is respectfully done, and it's pretty new. Now, let's head out of here. We're gonna go to Fairmount. I really like that in this plaque they have a picture of the old building in there as well, with a little childhood picture of Jimmy right here. Pretty nice. So it looks like that plaque that Charlie Sheen had helped dedicate, it's probably not there anymore because it wasn't the ones I've seen in any other pictures or anything online. Well, as we're entering Fairmount, you can tell that not only was James Dean from here, but so was Garfield. Well, there you go, guys. There's the famous Fairmount water tower with Garfield and James Dean both on it. What a cool thing to have your face on a water tower like that. That's kind of cool. I like it. Well, when Jimmy's family moved out of Marion, they moved here. He lived here in 1933, so he would have been about 2 years old for a short time, because by the age of 5, the whole family, him, his mother, and father, decided to move out to Santa Monica. And that's where they remained for the next 4 years until, unfortunately, Jimmy's mother passed away, and his father decided to send him back here to live with his aunt and uncle and be raised out here. And my mom was saying, well, that was very common back in those days. If the mother passed, that the father did not raise the child as a single parent. So Jimmy would live with his aunt and uncle for the next 9 years out at the farm, from 1940 until 1949 when he graduated high school. Now, speaking of high school, let's go to the high school. And in case you wanted to see the other side of the house, this is the house from another angle. Young James Dean. Well, folks, welcome to Mayberry. I'm kidding, but it does say the Mayberry Garage. Well, unfortunately behind me is where the high school that James Dean went to originally was. Let me tell you what happened. So if you look online, you can find tons of photos of the old Fairmount High School that once stood here, and probably every video that you look up on Fairmount will have a picture of that high school. Now, the high school they quit using in the, I believe, the mid-80s. Now, what happened was the high school, they just really never had a plan for it, and over all that time, it just kept deteriorating and deteriorating. And you know, Morrissey made his music video and he was even up in some of the rooms, and this is where James Dean kind of developed his love for acting. He had a teacher here named Mrs. Knowles that was a speech teacher, and she was also the acting teacher, and got him interested in those kind of things. And he loved her so much that he in fact cited her as his favorite teacher. One day she was given an orchid by a student as a gift, and he asked if he could borrow the orchid, and he took it to his next class, which was art class, and he painted an orchid. He painted that orchid and gave it to her and said, "Here, you'll be able to keep it forever now." And I believe in the museum here they do have that painting. Now, they had originally planned to do something with this high school because it was such a classic looking high school, but everything in it started falling apart because nobody took care of it. If you look at some videos, people that got inside, like the stairwells had fallen apart. It was just in total disarray. So at one point they bulldozed half, which was this half of the high school, and they had this half left, and they were going to do something with it. They said they just couldn't keep figuring out what they wanted to do, and then they didn't have quite the money to do it. So what they ended up doing was when they demolished that first half of it, they removed the stage because Jimmy had performed on that stage. They actually took it apart piece by piece, and the plan, last I heard, was to reassemble it in a park for park performances so that people can use it forever. Now, I don't know if that's happened. I'll ask while we're here. But since all those videos, the school has been bulldozed, and literally they're out there bulldozing it right now. You can see the bulldozers over there. So long to James Dean's high school. Man. It must have, I mean, it just really must have been in such bad shape they couldn't even salvage any of the front. And I believe right here they used to have a Fairmount High School sign at one point. And that's all that's left. Well, since they're demolishing it all, I just asked the workers if I could take some of the brick, and he said sure, go for it. And I'm even going to take a little piece of the front walkway as well. Well, we're coming upon the old Winslow Farm where Jimmy used to live. We gotta swing by and take a look, don't we? Well, here it is. After Jimmy was sent back from Santa Monica after his mom died, this is where he was sent to. His aunt and uncle's farm, where he would live here for about 10 years. And his young nephew Marcus still lives here and runs the farm. I saw online that out in the barn there's some handprints of Jimmy still in the concrete, his basketball hoop still out there. So cool to see that this still exists, and they even keep his room upstairs. Wow, so cool to see. Now we've made it over to the Back Creek Friends Church, and this was Jimmy's church. Jimmy actually performed in a play here when he was a young man, and they still hold a festival here in Fairmount every year, just a couple of weeks ago actually, on the anniversary of Jimmy's death. And they come to all the spots that Jimmy used to frequent, including, like I said, his church. However, this was not the church that they had his funeral ceremony in. As you can imagine, they had to have a pretty big church for that because there were going to be a lot of people, and this church just unfortunately couldn't accommodate the crowd. So that's Jimmy's history here, but we will eventually end up at the other Friends Church. Literally, that's what it's called, Friends Church. And we'll see where Jimmy's funeral was held. Now what's kind of interesting is when you're standing here at the church, there's a little cemetery. This isn't the cemetery that Jimmy is buried in, but if you look straight across the cemetery, you can actually see the Winslow family farm that we were at, and that was where Jimmy lived from 1940 until 1949 when he decided to head out and start his career as an actor. Now this is actually one of my personal favorite stops that I really wanted to make, because not only did I've always had this weird fascination with Indian motorcycles. I think it's because of La Bamba and seeing La Bamba, seeing Brother Bob ride around in it, but this one is right to the left of the church we were at, where Jimmy attended church, and this was where he got his Czech motorcycle. he had a yellow check motorcycle that is actually in a museum here that we will see. And the interesting story is that his aunt and uncle decided to buy it for him because he was so fascinated, and he used to ride it all over Fairmount. There's pictures of him riding that yellow, it was a Czechoslovakian motorcycle, but they just called it the Czech. And this is where they got it, right here at Carter's. And it was said that Jimmy spent a lot of his time just hanging out here, you know, especially right here in between the door and the garage. He would stand there and hang out while they would work on motorcycles and stuff inside. How cool is that, man? I mean, Jimmy's fascination with motorcycles is legendary. I mean, he was always just a need for speed kind of dude. I mean, he was a professional race car driver. I mean, literally professional, and had won many awards, first, second place trophies. And that all kind of started from his fascination with the motorcycles right here. Now, I think we'd be kind of crazy to not go in. I mean, we can't go in, but we can definitely look in the window and see what it looks like in there, right? I'm sure maybe they use it for something now. Man, that's where Jimmy would have been looking around for motorcycles. And if you actually look above the Indian sign, you can see that it says District something, District number something, and then it says 1894 Fairmount. So my mom said she thought this looked like it was an old schoolhouse building or something like that. Now, my mom really wanted to come on this trip. She doesn't want to be on camera, because this is, you know, this is Jordan's vlog, this is my thing, but she loves cemeteries, so this was why we had to come and make her a part of this, of course. So this is her favorite part, but I wanted to include everything James Dean that we could. So here we are at Park Cemetery, where Jimmy was laid to rest, and it's kind of a sad story because it hasn't been a peaceful rest, not entirely. Now let's go see his grave, and I'll tell you what I mean by that. And you can tell they get a lot of visitors when they have something like this. Like I said, every year on September 30th, or the weekend closest to September 30th, they have a big tribute and memorial for James Dean. And it happens all over Fairmount, but it always ends here. And there was a man named Nicky Bazooka that used to lead a funeral procession here on a motorcycle. And unfortunately, he passed away a few years ago. But it is something that they have kept up, and there's always flowers up at Jimmy's grave. So let's take our directions right here and head up the hill to see Jimmy. Dean.
Yeah, it's up on the hill.
We're getting close, Mom. Are you excited?
I'm excited.
Isn't that weird to say when you're at a cemetery that you're excited, but we're ghoulish in that way. My mom and I both love cemeteries.
We are a cemetery.
Well, here we are. The first grave we've come upon is Aunt and Uncle Winslow, Marcus and Hortense. And then right next to him is James Dean and his parents, Winton and Ethel, right here. And you can see in this stone that people have left all kinds of memorial comments and cigarette butts. And I'm kind of glad that we came when we did, because they just had the festival for Jimmy about 2 weeks ago, so we're really getting to see it in its best state. Now you can see that there's all kinds of little mementos here that people have left for him, as well as lipstick prints, as we see everywhere. 24 years old. If you don't know the story and you haven't seen the vlogs, Jimmy was, as I said, a professional race car driver, and he had just got a new Porsche about 2 weeks before, and he was going to take it up for a race. And as he was working his way up the grapevine, unfortunately he was coming around a curve and a man didn't see him, and they collided, and Jimmy's life was cut short. So while we were at the Carter's motorcycle shop, you know, it's tradition, you see people here have left coins on top, and a lot of times they leave stones. You can see guitar picks and many things here, including a stone with Forever Young, which was a song written about Jimmy. So while we were at Carter's, I picked up a few stones off the ground, and I'm going to leave them here on his grave, because that's what you're supposed to do, I guess. So here are the stones from Carter's, where he got his first motorcycle.
Here.
And my mom wants to put a coin down, so we're gonna put a coin down. Look at all the cigarette butts and even people writing notes on pumpkins for him. It's nice to be remembered when you only made 3 movies. He'll always be forever young, and in fact, Morrissey was such a James Dean fan that when he left the Smiths, he made a music video in Fairmount, filmed it in the snowy streets of Fairmount, and in fact went into James Dean's high school. Look at that, James Dean. Now, what I was telling you when we were at the motorcycle shop was that it hasn't been a totally peaceful death, because his tombstone has been stolen 3 times. Originally, the tombstone was stolen in, I believe, '86, and they replaced the tombstone, and then within like 2 months, the next one was stolen. Now, as I understand, nobody ever found who did it, but like a couple of years afterward, the original tombstone head was found in a dumpster in Fort Wayne, Indiana, of all places. So I don't believe this is the original headstone, but I'm not sure either. Now I do know, if you've followed my vlogs long enough and you've ever seen me hike up to the Griffith Observatory, they have a bust of Jimmy there. And that was actually commissioned by Jimmy, by an artist, and it was right before he died. So the artist really took a lot of extra care into bringing Jimmy's soul, because he said when Jimmy came in and told me what he wanted, we sat and talked for a long time so I could really get to know him. I really wanted to make it personal. And so that's not the only bust. They actually have a second identical bust that was originally out here, but they were having problems with people that kept stealing it. So they've now moved it to a park in the middle of Fairmount that we're gonna go see. Now what's interesting is this is the second, or the opposite side of his headstone, and I've never really seen this before where they did the name on both sides, but I did see that there's a woman that's been attending his memorial festival every year for like, God, I wanna say like over 10 years. And this wreath on top is actually left by her, Naomi Yamada. And whoever put this, you're now famous, but that's one of the weirdest things I've ever seen, is somebody leaving a duck face photo of himself for James Dean. And one of the reasons that I wanted to tell you guys about Naomi Yamada is that one of her traditions when she comes here every year is that she makes all kinds of origami and leaves it here. And guess what? It's still here. Obviously, I mean, we're only 2 weeks away from, but you can see all these little, she leaves origami animals and birds and things like that. That's what's all over the ground over here. And I guess he'll always have smokes. Until next time, James Dean, we will definitely be back in this area. There's a lot of stuff I want to see, and this will not be my last trip here. So now that we've made it to Fairmount, I'm going to show you where a very, very famous photo of James Dean was taken, of him walking right up this street. Well, how about that? A picture of James Dean right there and Natalie Wood on the other side. Now this is not the original no parking sign that we see in the photo, but basically right here on this sidewalk where we're standing, James Dean's walking right up here, and you can see the edge of this building, and you can see the bank in the background with that big dome. So I'll match that photo up for you right here. And as you can tell, right across from where he took that photo, they have a big mural of him right there. So one of the great things about Fairmount that I read online was that structurally it has not changed pretty much ever. Some of the businesses may have changed, but the actual look of it has never changed. And they said if Jimmy were alive today or came back today, he would recognize this town. That's pretty cool to hear. Check out that old cool 7-Up sign up there. I love that. Arms Hunt Funeral Home. This is where James Dean's funeral was held. The viewing. My mom was saying, you know, she said, I almost don't understand why they would bury him here when it would be so hard for people to visit, but then when you hear about all the stories of how popular he is and people stealing the bust and stealing the headstone, you can totally understand, even if that's happening out here, how bad it would have been in Hollywood if it were in maybe a cemetery like that. But the last viewing of James Dean. You know, honestly, I'm guessing they probably didn't even do an open casket for that, I wouldn't think. Pretty sad. James Dean Memorial Park, the new home of the second James Dean bust. Now, like I said, the first one is at the Griffith Observatory where he filmed Rebel Without a Cause, but there were two of them. And when Kendall made these, like I said, James had requested him to make these and he wanted to put Jimmy's full soul into it. Come on, man. Give the guy some respect. These spiders around here they have just no respect here. There it is, the second bust. And like I said, they had to remove it from the cemetery because unfortunately people kept trying to steal it. But I believe Ken put his initials and signed it right there. And there's a pretty nice plaque about James. Now when Kendall started this, he actually started this sculpture the day that James Dean died. And now they have it here for the fans, not so much for James, but for the fans to come and pay their respects. And they say that even though James Dean was known as the Rebel Without a Cause, in real life he was a pretty good scholar when he went to school here, even attended UCLA, and you know, honed his love of theater while he was here at Fairmount on that stage of the high school that's now gone. This drugstore right here on the corner was a hangout at James Dean as well. He and his basketball team in high school used to hang out there during the day after school. Well, my mom and I decided to stop and get a bite to eat. The closest place that we could find that was open was a Mexican restaurant, and as soon as we pulled up, we saw painted on the windows, James Dean fans. That's us. So I do have to apologize. At the beginning of the video I mentioned that you were going to get a second video tomorrow, and I was really excited to do it. Unfortunately, online it didn't say that this particular day that we are here is one of their days they're closed. So, even though I have plans for the next couple of days, before I head back to California, I am going to come up here on one of their open days and I'm going to vlog that place because I want to see it so bad. I know some of the things that are in there. My mom and I, after all this is said and done, we're going to go to, after we eat, we're going to go to the James Dean Gallery, look at some of the art, grab a couple of t-shirts, and then we're going to head back out to the Winslow Farm and, you know, see if we can get an option or an opportunity, I guess I should say, to meet Marcus and maybe see those handprints if it's possible. Oh yeah, nice place, huh? Well, I got the tacos al pastor, one of my favorites, the pork, and my mom got some sort of enchilada deal. I don't know what that is. Well, we've made it to the James Dean Gallery. Free admission and a nice statue of Jimmy right here on the front. Truth be told, we came for the t-shirts. I don't know if we're going to be able to get my mom and me in these pictures. If we put our heads through there, I don't think it'll work. See, we just missed it. Well, here are a lot of the t-shirt options. Pretty great. We're going to make our way through the gallery now. Here's the literature. Now let's go walking around. Look at all this memorabilia. How great is that? That's just incredible. So much stuff. I see some autographs signed by Ann Doran, which was, I believe that was his mother in Rebel Without a Cause. Oh wow, look at this. Okay, so you guys remember when we were out at the cemetery and I mentioned that Nicky Bazooka had passed away and he used to do the wreaths? This is his motorcycle. in his outfit. It's pretty cool. I'm glad that they were able to memorialize him here. Oh, look at all the memorabilia in here. This is great. And then over here, you can see 1941 life at Fairmount. He would have just came back from California then. Here's a Letterman sweater from 1954. Now that is a watercolor that Jimmy did of a bullfighter, and he actually in his New York apartment had some bullhorns and a bullfighter cape in there. Now this is a piece of the curtain that was on the stage at Fairmount High where James Dean performed in the school plays. Check this out. Whoa, this is awesome. That is the original gate from Rebel, from the alley. See right here. If you remember that when he's peeking over the gate, right there, that's the same exact one. How cool is that? And check this out. This is a replica Hell's Drivers Club car from the movie Life. But if you see in this picture, remember when we were out at the farm, and we're going to go back out to the farm again. Here's Jimmy pushing Marcus, who I hope we get to meet in this Hell's Driver little soapbox car. Now this is pretty cool. This is showing that Jimmy used to be a model for the SHOT stuff, the SHOT jackets. I actually have a SHOT jacket. They're American-made leather jackets for bikers, and that's not his original jacket, but that's a replica of what he wore, because you can see up in the picture, it's got that collar, just like this one. Look at that papier-mâché face of him. That's great. Yep. And then Shelley, I think, if I remember right, Shelley had one of these in her house. She had one of those little replica pieces like that. And here you can see what it originally looked like when it was first out at the gravesite before they moved it on top of those bricks up here. And then right there in the Fairmount newspaper, it's saying that they were going to erect a memorial for Jimmy. Now if you look down here, there's all kinds of fan mail addressed to James Dean at Warner Brothers and different membership cards from the James Dean fan club. So that would have been probably, I would have to guess, during Giant, where he was banned from driving his motorcycle in the studio lot for basically racing it. Now in the back is a place called Rebel Rebel that just has all kinds of cool thrift stuff. But definitely still in the theme of that 1950s. You can see all the dishes and everything that you can buy from that era. And they didn't forget about him, because there he is. Here you can buy your James Dean pillows and your James Dean custom-made jean jacket. They must have known I was coming because they had some extra sunglasses for me. Check out this old record player. How cool is that? This old hi-fi. Nice dice. Check this out. These tables that are made out of basically caps to beer. All the way down to the handles and like all the... Look at that. It looks like it's been like weaved around in like a rope fashion. And that bill up there is what my friend Scott Michaels has tattooed on him. That picture of Jimmy. Right on his forearm. Look at all those memorial pins. Now that is stellar. Look at how that's made. It's like in pieces. I love that. There is a life mask of James Dean that Warner Brothers made during Giant. And here's a great picture of Kenneth Kendall working on those busts. Those two busts that exist. And that red replica jacket was actually worn by the man who played James Dean in the movie. Richard Thomas played him in the movie called September 30th, 1955. And those little penny loafers down there, those are James Dean's as well. Owned and worn by James Dean. And then right down here, this pass is a visitor's pass that Jimmy got one of his friends when he came to visit him on the Warner Brothers lot. Thought that was pretty cool. And sadly, this is a model reproduction of the crash, how the crash happened. Jimmy's car would have been over here. And that's the car that was making a left-hand turn that hit him. Now this bottom case is dedicated to Adelaide Knoll, the woman who I told you, she was the one that was Jimmy's speech and theater teacher when he went to Fairmount High School. Adelaide Knoll. Now this is pretty cool because when we walk by this, it didn't dawn on me until just now that I have actually seen a picture of Jimmy doing this. I believe he did this when he was at UCLA. He performed in that. So I'm picking up some shirts, I'm picking up some souvenirs that I'm going to mail out to some Patreons, so you guys might get a Fairmount James Dean Gallery comb, you might get a bumper sticker, and who knows what else. Well, we're heading out of Fairmount again, and we're going to go back out to the Winslow Farm, and I think we're going to end the video out there. But I wanted to show you a little bit of this because if Jimmy spent all of his time in town with all those pictures that match up and even going to school, but he lived out here, think of how often that motorcycle would have came up and down this road. Well, we're gonna end the vlog out here at the old farm. And there's a picture of Jimmy that I showed you guys earlier in this vlog pushing that little soapbox with Marcus in it, and that photo was taken, I believe, right here. Jimmy's pushing him right down this driveway, and you can see the house in the background. If you're a big James Dean fan, or you're not, I hope this made you a James Dean fan and that you will kind of get to imagine what Jimmy's life was really like out here in Indiana before he became a big star. Thank you, Peter Angelopoulos, for making a contribution to my channel, and thank you all for watching. I hope you, like I said, I hope you guys enjoyed getting to experience what would have been James Dean's old haunts. Have a great night, and we'll see you all tomorrow. Goodbye.